So, today we're going to dive into a fascinating historical puzzle. It's this anomaly on the map of Europe that, believe it or not, has been there for nearly 2,000 years. And that is a fantastic question, right? I mean, if you look at Eastern Europe, it's just this huge expanse of Slavic languages. You've got Hungarian plopped in the middle, which is a whole other story. And then there's Romania, speaking a language that comes straight from Latin. How on earth did that happen? And maybe more importantly, how did it survive? Well, we're going to investigate the clues. Yeah, and this mop just lays it all out for you, doesn't it? It really shows you the heart of the mystery. You see Romania, right there, speaking a Romance language, and it's completely boxed in by countries speaking Slavic languages. We're talking Ukrainian, Bulgarian, Serbian, and of course Hungary with its totally unique Uralic language. It's an island. So to figure out why, we have to go back, way back, to the source, the Roman Empire. All right, so for our first clue, we've got to jump in the time machine and go back almost 2,000 years to a time when the borders of Europe were being drawn by the sword. Okay, so in 1006 AD, the Roman Emperor Trajan conquers this ancient kingdom called Dacia, which is pretty much where modern Romania is today. And for the next 165 years, it was a full-blown Roman province. Now, you might be thinking, 165 years? That's not a super long time in the grand scheme of things. But you know what? It was more than long enough for a massive transformation to take root. See, the thing about the Romans is they were incredible administrators. They brought their soldiers, their colonists, their laws, and crucially, their language. And we're not talking about the fancy classical Latin you read in literature. We're talking about vulgar Latin, the everyday spoken language of the soldiers and the settlers. That became the language of business, of government, of just daily life. And that's the key takeaway here. This wasn't just a military conquest. It fundamentally changed how people talked, and it laid down linguistic bedrock that turned out to be incredibly tough. But what happened when the Romans packed up and left? Well, after the Roman legions pulled out around 271 AD, the whole region was just hit by these massive waves of migrations. You had the Goths, the Huns, the Slavs, and for centuries, crickets. There are almost no written records of the Latin-speaking people who were left behind. History just goes dark. So did they just, poof, disappear? And then, out of the darkness, we get this. Our first real proof from these silent centuries. In the year 587, a Byzantine historian writes down that a soldier in the Balkans shouted these exact words to his buddy. Torna, torna fratere. It's a simple phrase, but it's pure early Romance language. It's a direct descendant of Latin, and it's the first hard evidence that the language hadn't died out. No, it was alive, and it was being spoken by people in the region. And it wasn't just the language. Archaeologists have found actual physical proof that the culture continued. Take the Dacian cup here. It's a style of pottery that the local people kept making before the Romans, right through the Roman period and long, long after they left. Things like this, and traditional cooking pots, and finding local Dacian and Roman items buried together in the same houses, it shows us the Daco-Roman people didn't just vanish, they adapted, they survived. They held on to their culture in these small rural communities, hiding out from all the chaos of the invasions. So, we know they survived in the shadows, but when do they actually pop back up on the historical radar? Well, that brings us to our third clue. By the early Middle Ages, people on the outside start talking about these Latin speakers again, and they call them Vlachs. This was the name that their neighbors, the Slavs, the Hungarians, the Byzantines, gave to them. And these Vlachs, they were the ones who had kept that Roman linguistic flame burning. They are the direct ancestors of today's Romanians. And here's the thing. They weren't just surviving anymore. They were thriving. By the 1100s, the Vlachs are no longer some historical footnote. They are major players. They lead this huge uprising against the Byzantine Empire and help create a powerful new state, the Second Bulgarian Empire. This is the moment, really, that the ancestors of the Romanians step back onto the main stage of European history as a distinct Latin people in a Slavic world. Now, over the next 700 years, this identity just gets stronger and stronger through local kingdoms like Wallachia and Moldavia, and through constant struggles with neighboring empires. But it was about to face its most brutal test of all in the 20th century. After World War I, the dream of Greater Romania actually happened. For the first time ever, pretty much all Romanian-speaking people were united in one country. They incorporated places like Transylvania, Bessarabia, and Bukovina. It was this incredible moment, the nation at its absolute peak, the culmination of that 2,000-year journey. And then it all came crashing down. In 1940, Romania was caught between Nazi Germany and the Soviet Union, and it was literally torn apart. As you can see here, it was forced to give up Bessarabia and northern Bukovina to the Soviets and northern Transylvania to Hungary. This was an absolute national catastrophe. It shattered the country and it led to a really desperate decision. You have to try and put yourself in their shoes. Romania was in an impossible position. Their old allies, Britain and France, powerless to help after France fell in 1940. The only power that seemed to offer even a slim chance of getting their land back, especially from the Soviets, was Nazi Germany. So, facing what they saw as a threat to their very existence, Romania made a fateful choice and joined the Axis. And Romania's commitment to the war on the Eastern Front was absolutely massive. In the summer of 1941, it had an army of over 680,000 men. They sent more troops to invade the Soviet Union than all of Germany's other allies combined. Think about that for a second. And the main reason? Getting their lost territories back. But then, in one of the most stunning reversals of the entire war, as the tide turned and the Red Army was pushing into the country, Romania flipped. On August 23, 1944, the young King Michael I led a coup. He had the pro-Axis government arrested, declared war on Germany, and just like that, put Romania's massive army on the side of the Allies. For the rest of the war, Romanian soldiers fought and died battling their old allies. So after all this, after this long, brutal, complicated history, what was the final verdict for this Latin nation stuck at the crossroads of empires? Well, the post-war settlement was bittersweet, to say the least. That big decision to switch sides paid off in one way. They got northern Transylvania back from Hungary. But the Allies, especially the Soviet Union, used Romania's early alliance with Germany as the reason to make the loss of its eastern lands, Bessarabia and northern Bukovina, permanent. And that right there just sums up the whole saga. I mean, from those Roman colonists who first brought Latin to Dacia, to the Vlachs who carried that language like a torch through the Dark Ages, to the modern nation that fought tooth and nail to preserve its borders, the story of Romania is just one of incredible resilience. It's the story of a people who were defined by their refusal to be erased. This whole history of being a cultural island, of always having to navigate the ambitions of much bigger neighbors, that's not just ancient history. It absolutely continues to shape Romania's identity, its culture, and its place in the world today. And it really makes you think, doesn't it? How does a 2,000-year legacy of pure survival define a nation's future?